We have him on usually on a weekly basis. We also always have him on from the Super Bowl. He's the one and only Solomon Wilcots. He joins us here on the Doug Gottlieb Show on Fox Sports Radio. And Solomon, let's get to these. Let's start with something you're near and dear to your heart. The Kansas City Chiefs, kind of a no-name defense, right? Everybody, like first game of the year, they get beat by the Lions. It was like, well, they don't have Chris Jones. It's literally the only guy who anybody knows from this team.
Right.
How have they done this? How have they become this? They didn't score a point in the second half against the Ravens and won the game, played to their defensive strengths. How's that happen?
You know, when you hear this term quite often, complementary football, right? What does that mean? It means all the components of the football team kind of working in concert. When one area is not working, the other team has to elevate. And when you saw the second half of the AFC Championship game against the Baltimore Ravens, where the offense for the Chiefs scored early on their first two drives, they scored touchdowns, and they don't score again in the second half. But you saw the defense elevate their game. What does that mean? You get the takeaway, timely turnovers, right? Forcing the interception from Lamar Jackson, forcing the fumble at the goal line by Zay Flowers, the ability to take the football away, the ability to keep teams out of the end zone and keep the score down. And that's what the Kansas City Chiefs have done. I think over the last 8 games, they've only allowed one team to score over 20 points, and that was the Buffalo Bills. Everybody else, they're keeping the score around 20, and we know that the offense can become prolific and score points on the other side. The defense is underrated. I love their linebackers in Willie Gay. I love Nick Bolton. And then they're able to really cover very well. They play the run defense very well. So front end and back end, they're very comprehensive.
Super Bowls are generally officiated the same way in that they don't want to throw a lot of flags.
That's right.
Right?
They don't. Nope.
So defensive backs are not dummies.
That's right.
So they're going to play a lot more.
I like you saying that.
A lot more physical.
Yeah.
So who does that benefit more in terms of defensive style and physicality? Niners or Chiefs defense?
I think first of all, it benefits both defenses. I think because you have more prolific playmakers for the 49ers, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle. I mean, these are all guys that can make plays in space.
It's
an all-star team, right? These guys are phenomenal. So I think when you have that many guys and they're going to say, hey, let them play. That means you can put your hands on them, you can grab, hit, hold, tussle. L'Jarius Sneed is one of those underrated cornerbacks. You see the jam that he put on Tyreek Hill a few weeks ago?
Yeah, jammed him all the way to Cancun. That's even what Tyreek Hill said.
That's exactly what he said. Now, think about that, though, when you can put your hands on them and the official's going to allow you to play. I think it benefits that defense. I don't know that. Remember Nick Bolton last year against the Eagles in the Super Bowl? He nearly had 2 touchdowns in the game. He helped turn the game around. But he's a phenomenal linebacker. Willie Gay, same thing. These are guys that play well in space. But we can say the same about Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. So that, to me, you got to think about how 2 of the great tight ends in our game going up against 2 linebackers on both defenses that play the run equally as well as they play the pass.
Okay, but the Niners defense has struggled against the run.
They have. Yes, they have.
What is it, and is it fixable?
Look, I could tell you right now, when you get runners to the second level of them, of a defense, you're gashing them. The point is that the 49ers were able to overcome it each of the last 2 games, at least in the postseason, would come from behind win. They were able to get the points.
I get it, but it's different to come from behind against the Packers and the Lions.
I agree.
As opposed to against the Chiefs.
Against Patrick Mahomes.
Correct.
That's really
Andy Reid.
I mean, absolutely. And Andy Reid.
I mean, these
That's
guys,
right.
they're not dummies. They know what they're doing.
They'll put you to sleep.
Right.
Yeah, you fall behind on these guys, they'll put you away. There's no doubt about it. But that's really been the key. I think you're pointing to something that I talked about earlier this morning. If there was an Achilles heel to the San Francisco 49ers, it would be their run defense. You asked what was some of the reasons why? I do believe that Chase Young has been a liability in terms of run defense. Where he might be good at chasing the quarterback, he does not hold up well at the point of attack, and that's why they had to get him off the field against Detroit.
Okay, so you actually, this is great because you're here on behalf of Macy.
Yeah.
Okay, which is a procedure that is it fake cartilage, new cartilage? What is it?
It's your own cartilage. It's your own stem cells to grow new cartilage.
And Chase Young is a guy, he had a catastrophic knee injury, and by all accounts has not been the same guy. And I'm sure at some point, probably later in life, he's going to need this. So tell me how does Macy work?
Yeah, I can't speak to his situation specifically, but I brought someone who can at least tell us about the science of Macy. And Dr. Chad Hansen is here to tell us more about it.
So Dr. Hansen, okay, so, I mean, I've heard of all these there's all different procedures. What is unique about Macy that allows it to be so successful?
Well, Macy is utilized, basically you use your own cartilage to create a tissue repair. And so you harvest the patient's cartilage.
So you take it out.
You send it to a lab.
Yeah.
They grow their own cartilage onto a patch, and it's like you're filling a hole in a street, like with a manhole cover.
Mm-hmm.
And normally, inside your own knee, your own cartilage, it doesn't multiply anymore, right? What you got, you got.
It has no ability to
What do they do
repair
to
itself.
stimulate the growth?
They're basically, we have stem cells. So these are cells that have the capacity to grow.
Right.
Our own bodies just aren't able to because there's no blood supply. And so in a lab, we can modify it in a way that allows it to grow.
Okay, so again, and I'm very much a layman. I've had ACL surgery, but I don't know about the harvesting of this type of stuff. And okay, so what they used to do, or they still do, is the microfracture. That's the idea of creating that blood flow, right?
Yeah.
So this is instead of that, because the microfracture is kind of hit or miss and can create other injuries.
And it doesn't create cartilage tissue.
Oh.
That would just create maybe after the blood would calcify, so it'd be hard, right? I'll allow the science to take place here.
The easy way to understand is that when you do microfracture, you create a scar cartilage.
Right.
Whereas when you're bringing the patient's own cartilage back into their knee, it is a more natural, kind of cleaner version of a tissue repair. And so it's closer to healthy new cartilage.
So when people say, I got no cartilage in my knee, bone on bone, right?
Yeah.
This can help them?
This cannot help them. It is more for somebody that has a discrete cartilage defect. And so think of something dime-sized to quarter-sized with healthy cartilage around it.
That can be repaired.
But if you get this done preventatively, it can keep you from being bone on bone, I got nothing in my knee.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yep. So if you get to that point where you've deteriorated
You got to get a replacement.
to bone on bone,
Yeah.
you've already passed the point of no return. Is that a fair way of saying it?
That's correct.
How do you know?
Well, generally, we can see on an MRI that there's a cartilage defect with surrounding healthy cartilage. And then when we go in to do an initial arthroscopy or scope, we can measure the cartilage defect. We can look at the surrounding walls to see if it's healthy. And then we can harvest the small little tic tacs of this cartilage to send to the lab and grow.
It's amazing stuff.
Isn't it cool to hang out with smart people?
Right?
Doug?
And then
I
what
mean,
you do is when they start talking, you like nod your head. Oh, yeah. I have no idea what you're talking about. But
hopefully,
then when you go in your own conversation, you use their words.
That's
They're
right.
like, man,
That's right.
that Gottlieb, he knows a lot about knee cartilage.
There
Like,
you
well,
go.
you know, when you use it.
Right. That's right.
Some people call it a scope. What was it? What's the full word for scope?
Arthroscopy.
Arthroscopy.
There you
Well,
go.
I got an arthroscopy. I mean, it's a scope. The layman, it's a scope. It's an arthroscopy.
Yeah, but to my guys, there you
Here's
go.
how you find out information. MACI, Macy.com. Macy.com?
Yep,
that's
Anything else I need to know?
It's for adults 18 to 55.
All right.
There
So
you
if you
go.
got any of these, go in, see your doctor. Go to Macy.com for more information. You got important safety information plus full prescribing information. That's MACI.com. Dr. Chad Hansen, of course, Solomon Wilcots. Man, thanks for joining
You're
us.
the best, Doug.
All right. Enjoy Vegas.
Thanks, Doug.
And we'll talk to you guys very, very soon.